Bait and switch. The action, generally illegal, of advertising goods which are an apparent bargain with the intention of substituting inferior or more expensive goods. Hey, apropos of nothing, did you guys see that Overwatch 2 basically just got f***ing cancelled? Overwatch occupies a weird moment in gaming history. It was born from the ashes, scraps, smouldering wreckage, whatever you want to call it, of Titan, a cancelled MMO from contemporary industry titans. Do you get it? Blizzard. Announced in 2014 and released to rapturous applause in 2016, Overwatch was the game. And you know what? It was fucking good. I really, really liked this game. It's easy to look back now and see peak Overwatch as a thing of the past, a flash in the pan, a blip or a boop in the various flavors of the months that are strewn throughout gaming history. But peak Overwatch was something else. It was huge. Even the open betas had a rough estimate of almost 10 million players participating over short time frames, and managed to rake in $269 million, over $250 million in sales just in its first month, with a grand total of $565 million by the end of 2016 on PC alone. Blizzard had struck gold, and Overwatch looked potentially poised to become something hitherto thought unattainable, become the League killer. Controversial opinion, ready the pitchforks, do whatever, I don't really care, but I kinda like League of Legends. I know it's disappointing to hear, but I don't mind it. Flip back to 2014 and ask someone what games they play, and you're pretty likely to find League of Legends somewhere on that list. Around January 2014, League had an estimated 27 million daily active players and 67 million monthly active players. Fast forward to 2017, and this latter figure had grown to an estimated 100 million players, thanks to increasingly effective marketing from Riot Games, including but not limited to a stupendously successful esports scene, essentially functioning as global promotion for the game the same way the FIFA World Cup promotes kicking about a ball in the park with the lads. If Overwatch was set to be a titan, League of Legends was a leviathan. The power of this weapon turns out to be that of a custard pie dropped from a stepladder 6 feet high. 2 Chainz. Did Overwatch kill League of Legends? Did it fuck? League's player base has fluctuated massively in the years since 2016, probably in part due to things like the release of the Emmy Award-winning series Arcane breathing new life into a decade-plus old game, and probably conversely due to the massive consistent fuck-ups at Riot Games. Not that Blizzard are exempt from this, far from it, but we'll obviously get to that. To say that Overwatch impacted League's player count is pretty disingenuous. League's successes and failures are its own, completely independent of any other game's release, as is Overwatch's. So, what happened? How did we go from one of the most fun, vibrant moments of gaming pop culture in recent years to wherever the fuck we are now? It's a long story, but let's take a look at one of the biggest bag fumbles in recent memory. To say Overwatch failed because it was bad is wrong. Overwatch was fucking great. I managed to play some of the beta at a LAN on a friend's PC back in 2016, and I was hooked straight away. I'd never massively been into competitive shooters before. My FPS experience was pretty limited to games like Borderlands or Half-Life with the occasional dabble into TF2. And my experience with competitive games was pretty limited to League of Legends and fighting games, so to be pulled in by a shooter was something completely new. In retrospect, it's not too surprising. A lot of the things that attracted me to League are present in Overwatch 2, and a lot of the things missing from games such as League are present in Overwatch. The game is super easy to pick up and play with little to no prior knowledge of its mechanics, yet just like any competitive shooter, the skill ceiling is so astronomically high that the game opens itself up to almost every level of play. I didn't need to learn how to play Overwatch before getting good at it the same way I do with Street Fighter. I got good whilst playing it, and having a blast. Rounds are short enough so that even my decayed iPad baby attention span is able to focus on quick bursts, yet in-depth enough to really allow you to get stuck in and create your own team narratives within each match. Yet falling catastrophically behind early on in each match doesn't punish too hard. Enemies didn't become more and more fed before becoming insurmountable objects where you were just better off rage quitting instead of finishing the game, although that doesn't seem to stop a frighteningly large number of people from doing just that. So matches were pretty much based entirely on individual and team-based skill, rather than flukes or early game advantages snowballing into impassable leads. Barring optional cosmetics, everything in Overwatch was unlocked from day one, meaning you immediately had access to every hero, every weapon, every map, every gameplay mode right from the start. Everything the pros were doing, you could do too. The only thing stopping you from being as good as them or anyone else who keeps whooping your ass was, well, you. This ease of accessibility and microscopically small barrier for entry were no doubt big reasons why I fell in love with the game so quickly. I bought both Overwatch and a PS4 in late 2016. I couldn't afford a PC. I'd just graduated university and got my first proper full-time job, so I didn't have time to sink hours into MMOs or other games like I had done for the rest of my life. So Overwatch filled pretty much every void I had in my gaming schedule. There was a great community aspect to Overwatch too, in that literally every friend I had who was also a gamer was also playing Overwatch back in this time. Granted, we were all scattered across different platforms because crossplay wasn't a thing yet, but it didn't matter. We'd talk about our games together, new hero and skin releases, the upcoming professional Overwatch League and which teams we were going to support. London Spitfire, obviously, go Cloud9. Overwatch was on top of the gaming world. It had arrived with a bang, was a critical and commercial darling, and looked as if it would be here to stay for a long, long time. But as Blizzard know all too well,
no king rules forever, my son.
I see. Only.
It's difficult to pinpoint one moment where Blizzard fucked up Overwatch, because there isn't one. People didn't just wake up one day and Overwatch had become shit. It was a slow, gradual, tortuous process as the game was stripped for parts before our very eyes as we reached the current day. In my opinion, the first crack started to show after around the first year of Overwatch's lifespan. At various points throughout its first year, Blizzard released celebratory in-game events to coincide with various IRL events too. Things like Christmas, Lunar New Year, the 2016 Olympics. These were big in-game events that came with all new skins available for a lot of characters, and often a pretty fun new game mode. We'd get one of these every couple of months, and it was always something to look forward to. However, as the first year drew to a close and we entered year 2 of Overwatch's life, we got the same events. It was startlingly early on that Blizzard started to recycle Overwatch content. Yeah, sure, we'd get a couple of new skins along with the others returning from last year, but in terms of what was actually added to the game, it was startlingly little compared to the previous year. The new game modes were still fun, but the novelty had worn off. These events went from something new and exciting to spam out with friends to, oh, this again? I'm just gonna go play Quick Play. The only one of these events that really stands out to me is the Archives event, especially between 2017 and 2019. This game mode introduced a limited-time 4-player cooperative PvE event, and they were a lot of fun. One thing Overwatch was extremely light on was its lore. Yes, those wacky characters that run around blowing each other up do actually have a backstory to them. They're not just futuristic WWE superstars. The Archives missions delved into the backstory of quite a few of these characters, taking you on historical missions as a select few heroes, learning a little bit more about their history and their motivations. It really scratched that itch in my brain that longs for a cool story in the games I play. I'm a big lore hound. Part of the reason I love MMOs so much is that I love seeing the story of this giant world unfold and develop before myself and the other players in real time as we play. There was the potential for Overwatch to do this too, but beyond these 3 kinda disjointed archive missions and a few short comic book releases, the entirety of Overwatch's story remains almost entirely untapped. That old joke that Overwatch's lore is written by a team of incredibly talented writers who are never allowed to interact with each other is still true. The foundations for a great world were there, but never actually got built upon despite constant cries for the contrary. Which is a shame, because I'd honestly watch an entire big-budget live-action HBO series about Winston. For all the many, many criticisms of the gaming industry over the last couple of years, one thing I have really enjoyed is the explosion of esports onto the scene. I fucking love esports. Yes, they essentially serve as a big advertisement for games run by multi-billion-dollar companies, but fuck me if they aren't fun to follow. Part of the reason I stayed interested in League of Legends for as long as I did was because I loved the professional circuit. I don't even play anymore, but as I type up the script for this video, I'm already following which teams have qualified for the 2023 World Championship, and still lamenting C9's loss to NRG in the NA Regional Finals. God damn it. When Overwatch announced their officially licensed competitive circuit, the Overwatch League, back at BlizzCon 2016, it was exciting. This was set to be the big one. Blizzard themselves were investing an unprecedented amount of money into the league right from its first session, with teams bidding upwards of $20 million just for a spot in the Overwatch League. That doesn't even take into account things like player salaries, housing, and equipment costs. These slots were incredibly valuable, with one team, Immortals, even giving up their slot in the North American League of Legends Championship Series in order to be able to run the team LA Valiant after being issued an ultimatum by Riot Games regarding a conflict of interest. The NALCS is also primarily based in Los Angeles. Giving up a spot in what was, at the time, one of the most profitable esports leagues in the world for what was essentially a startup was insane, and really served to build up the hype around this budding esports league. But in my eyes, the Overwatch League was doomed from the start. Obviously, it's easy to look back now and say that, but even at the time, I was honestly baffled with so many of the creative decisions Blizzard took when first establishing the Overwatch League. For starters, let's go back to that team I mentioned earlier, Immortals. Or was it LA Valiant? I'm not sure. Overwatch League took the baffling decision to rebrand all of its teams away from well-known legacy brands such as Gen G or Misfits, to more accessible, recognizable team names like Seoul Dynasty and Florida Mayhem, assumedly in an attempt to draw in newer fans who were unfamiliar with these legacy brands. In doing so, Blizzard completely disregarded the fact that in esports, these brands are often just as important as the players themselves. Cloud9 fans will follow Cloud9. I know this because I am a diehard Cloud9 fan of over a decade. A forced rebrand to London Spitfire takes away nearly all the excitement I had for showing support for my longtime favourite team. I'd love to support Cloud9 across a few different esports. I'm just nowhere near as excited to support London Spitfire, a team I know almost nothing about. This decision essentially prevented a lot of the historical context of these esports teams from being brought into the Overwatch League. Blizzard clearly wanted Overwatch League to exist entirely separately, disconnected and above other esports, while ignoring that these teams, their fans and their legacies are what make esports what it is today. The naming convention for these teams was also pretty baffling too. I still never quite understood why London Spitfire was called London Spitfire. As far as I'm aware, they've never fielded a British player, nor conducted any kind of activity within London. Cloud9 is an American organisation. Maybe it was all just a plot to get all the true, proud British Christian patriots to watch the Overwatch League. I like that even when I'm doing a fake Cockney accent, it still sounds bad. Jesus. Part of what makes esports so fun to follow is the grassroots nature of it. Sure, it's corporate as hell right now, but every major esport, like League, Counter-Strike, and the entire of the FGC, has reached the point they have due to the commitment, effort, and talent of the players and fans, not the companies behind these games. Quite often in spite of the companies behind these games. Yes, I am looking directly at you, Nintendo. Blizzard's decision to immediately turn Overwatch into a premier esport was bold, to say the least. There was no telling how fan reception to this game as an esport would go, and whether or not this incredibly expensive league would be able to sustain itself beyond initial hype. Esports as they exist in their current state are supported entirely by two separate revenue streams, venture capital and advertisers. Money from the former will continue to flow as long as the sport is popular and worth investing in. Money from the latter will continue to flow as long as the sport and the company behind the sport is not poisonous to the brand choosing to advertise through this medium. Surely Blizzard, one of the most famous game development studios in the world, will always be advertiser friendly, right? Yeah, towards the end of the 2010s, Blizzard really found themselves in the shitter. I think a solid 2 years passed where any news I heard about Blizzard was either related to the Blitzchung controversy, where a top Hearthstone player had been disqualified from a tournament and denied his rightfully earned prize money just for expressing pro-Hong Kong sentiments, or one of the many sexual harassment scandals Blizzard has faced in the last few years. Whatever the opposite of damage control is, that's what Blizzard were facing over the course of these few years. Blizzard as a brand and every single one of the games under their banner were essentially poisoned, with advertisers and every other revenue stream trying their best to distance themselves from the newest pariah of the gaming industry. Advertisers left Overwatch League in droves, with the league finding itself with literally zero sponsors right before the start of its 5th season. The league found itself having to sign an exclusivity contract for broadcast rights on YouTube for an influx of cash, as opposed to Twitch, which is undoubtedly the home of live-streamed video game content, therefore further limiting the reach of its once promised esports league. We haven't even touched a number of the other controversies associated with the Overwatch League. Maybe that's for a future video. From poor working conditions causing so many players to drop out within the first 2 years of play, to Blizzard having to scrub references to their former league MVPs following credible sexual assault allegations. Scratching beneath the surface reveals so much dirt it makes me shudder to think just what else has gone on during the formation of the league that we don't know about. Since writing my initial draft of this script in June of 2023, the reason this is taking so long to finally fucking release is because Blizzard just keep fucking up even more. Activision Blizzard have announced a $114 million cash pool, offering to buy out teams who are no longer interested in participating in the league. Citing falling advertisement revenue and other collaborative arrangements as a key reason, Blizz offered each franchise $6 million to drop out of the league, effectively selling their franchise slot. Pennies compared to the upwards of $20 million that these slots cost back in 2018, but probably the best you're going to get in terms of revenue from the league in the near future. At the time of recording and uploading, I'm not 100% sure if this has come to pass yet. All the articles I'm able to find are detailing the announcement of the offer, but I've yet to find any on whether or not any teams have actually taken this offer, since assumedly if enough did, then that would definitely spell the end of the Overwatch League. Currently, the 2023 season is still in full swing, so it doesn't seem as if any franchise slots have been sold yet, but there are no announcements either way on any teams which have or will accept this offer. I think a lot of people underplay the impact the catastrophic failure of the Overwatch League had on the game itself. But Overwatch was designed to be a competitive shooter with a state-of-the-art professional competitive scene built from the ground up to go hand in hand with it. If one was to fail, then by very nature of their design, the other would come down with it. In the midst of the Blitzchung and harassment scandals at BlizzCon 2019, something unexpected happened. Overwatch 2 was announced. The original Overwatch had slowed its content release schedule to a palpable crawl, with new heroes and maps having multiple months between release, and this was presented as the reason why. Blizzard were working on the big one. Again. Overwatch 2 was announced to confusion. Initial details were kind of muddy on what Overwatch 2 actually was. There were a lot of mixed messages about how Overwatch 2 would function in tandem with the original game, with initial statements from Blizzard essentially claiming that this wasn't a replacement for the original game, but rather a companion, with players of Overwatch 1 and 2 being able to play together. Okay, so why are we getting another game if we can just carry on playing the first one? Aha, well here's the kicker. Overwatch 2 was going to come with everything the initial Overwatch had and more. There was a brand new PvE style of gameplay, way more in depth than the archive missions of Overwatch 1. You could train, customize, and personalize whichever hero you wanted to play as, specializing them to fit certain playstyles by leveling up talent trees in cooperative missions and gameplay modes. I must admit, I was excited by this. Overwatch was always primarily a game to be played with my friends from my perspective, and while the usual PvP modes were still fun, playing the same maps, modes, and heroes was getting a little stale after 3 solid years of playing almost every night. But taking the game engine, characters, and setting I loved, and introducing a fully fledged PvE campaign alongside even more of the PvP I've already sunk thousands of hours into, yeah, now we're talking. Initial details beyond a short cinematic trailer were scarce, but it was enough to get a fair few of us excited, and unfortunately even more of us to temporarily forget about all the shit Blizzard have been up to over the last few years. I'm not saying that Blizzard announced Overwatch 2 to distract from these scandals, but yeah, I am saying that Blizzard announced Overwatch 2 to distract from the vast ocean of scandals they were and currently still are facing. It was clear from the outset that this was not the time to be announcing a sequel to such a massively popular game. There was little to nothing for Blizzard to actually show or tell in terms of gameplay beyond vague glimpses of honestly very familiar looking footage. In fact, the only major change in status quo was that searching Blizzard or Overwatch now flooded the results pages with hits about Overwatch 2, not sexual harassment scandals. Funny how that happens, isn't it? And that was it for Overwatch 2. The Blizzard devs retreated to their workspaces in order to bring to life the next installment of Overwatch, slightly impeded by the pandemic but still working from home. We didn't have much beyond vague ideas or concepts to be excited for, but hey, if it's more of what we already know and love, then it's bound to be smooth sailing from here on out. I don't know Jeff Kaplan, and neither do you. I don't know anything about his leadership or his management skills, how he ran the Overwatch development team, or what he's like to work with. I don't know if Jeff Kaplan was involved with any of the scandals in Blizzard in any capacity, but I do know that as a public figurehead for the Overwatch development team, Jeff Kaplan was fucking excellent. Having Jeff as the figurehead and lead developer for Overwatch was integral to the continued success following the release of the game in 2016. This goofy, kinda awkward dude appearing in every developer update was not a rock star. This wasn't Keanu Reeves appearing to hype up Cyberpunk at E3. This wasn't a faceless billionaire conglomerate sending out a guy in a graphic tee and sports jacket to sell you a $70 rehash to last you the next 10 months. This was someone who made fucking games. Jeff was a big name on EverQuest, an early MMO from way back in the day. His guild, Legacy of Steel, achieved many realm-first achievements, with Jeff's notorious complaints and suggestions on the game's official forums catching the eyes of developers from other companies too. Jeff was essentially headhunted by Blizzard in 2002 for a then upcoming little game that you might have heard of called World of Warcraft. He was eventually named as one of the game's directors, along with serving as a developer on the Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King expansions, eras considered by most to be the game's peak. I actually preferred Mists of Pandaria, but whatever. Eventually, Jeff moved on to helm the aforementioned Titan, being integral to collecting the few remnants of this failed project and rebuilding it into the concept of Overwatch in just a few weeks. A pitch which would be accepted by Blizzard executives, with Kaplan serving as lead designer. Right from the start, it was clear that Overwatch was Jeff Kaplan's baby, his pride and joy. Yes, I know it's improper to assign the existence and success of a massive video game to one person, unless you're Toby Fox, but Jeff Kaplan and Overwatch were so intertwined it's honestly difficult to associate one without the other. Developer updates that had massive nerfs for your main heroes planned didn't feel so scummy when they were presented by Jeff, someone who it was clear genuinely held the game's best interests and longevity at heart. Along with, making lots of money and stuff, obviously. Don't worry, I'm not getting too parasocial with this section on a former corporate-level executive of a multi-billion-dollar company. So when Jeff Kaplan announced he was leaving Blizzard in April 2021, it was pretty much impossible to ignore the blaring alarm signals warning of what was to come. Around 15 months after Overwatch 2 was announced, following little to no real content updates, a sparse statement was uploaded to Blizzard's website, reading the following. I am leaving Blizzard Entertainment after 19 years. It was truly the honor of a lifetime to have the opportunity to create worlds and heroes for such a passionate audience. I want to express my deep appreciation to everyone at Blizzard who supported our games, our game teams, and our players. But I want to say a special thanks to the wonderful game developers that shared in the journey of creation with me. Never accept the world as it appears to be. Always dare to see it for what it could be. I hope you do the same. And that's it. No specifics on why he was leaving, no farewell video to the face and soul of the game for the better part of the last decade, just 3 short paragraphs. And yes, the dodgy punctuation and lack of capitalization are included in Jeff's initial statement. I didn't add those. This man types like Dave fucking Strider. To this day, we still don't know exactly why Jeff Kaplan left Overwatch 2. Everything anyone tells you is just speculation until we hear it from either Jeff or Blizzard themselves. And while I haven't delved too deep into figuring out what Jeff's up to these days out of respect for his privacy, this seems to be the last anyone's ever heard from him. No new company, no social media updates or developer conference appearances, just complete and total radio silence. He's AWOL. As I said, I don't know Jeff Kaplan, and neither do you. I would like to believe he wasn't massively involved in any of the scandals plaguing Blizzard. I assume we would have heard his name attached to at least one of the numerous lawsuits that other Blizzard executives are attached to, but I can't say for certain. The most prominent rumours and speculation lead back to Jeff being unhappy with the direction Overwatch 2 was moving towards, or more specifically, its direction towards it becoming a live service game. Everything in this next segment is just speculation, no matter how reliable the sources are, so there's a chance it may not be completely accurate, but the signs point to it at least being believable, so let's take a look. When Overwatch 1 released, it was a complete game. A $60 game consisting of several game modes, 12 huge battlefield maps, and 21 completely unique heroes. Even though it was always evident that more content would follow to keep the game fresh and retain a large portion of the player base, the content within the game justified the price tag. It helped that all following hero and map releases were given to players at literally no extra cost. They were released at the same time, for everyone, for free. Yes, the game had optional cosmetic loot boxes to purchase, which did cause ire with a number of players, and rightfully so. Predatory gambling mechanics are kinda scum, and I would have much preferred a currency-based system where new cosmetic items could be bought directly for a reasonable price, rather than trying your luck gambling. But nothing of substance was actually locked behind these boxes, just cosmetic items, and it was possible to easily obtain multiple copies of these boxes in one single session just by playing the game and leveling up. I barely spent any money on these loot boxes, probably £10 a couple of times when I had some spare cash lying around, and even then I ended up with a couple of complete hero galleries and every skin I could ever want for all of my mains. If this was all that Overwatch was going to offer in terms of predatory monetization, I could roll with it. When Jeff Kaplan announced his departure from Blizzard, myself and my friends who I've played with for years, long live the Guerrilla Guild, all said exactly the same thing. Oh, I bet there's a fucking battle pass coming. Word on the street is that Jeff was extremely opposed to Overwatch becoming a live service game. He viewed Overwatch as a finished product, with only minor balancing needing to be undertaken on the game after it's released. Blizzard did not share this sentiment. Pretty soon after Jeff left, Overwatch announced that as of the release of Overwatch 2, it was switching to a free-to-play model, with the game coming in at a grand total of $0 for both new and returning players. Immediate red flags. Maybe in some far-off socialist utopia dimension, games and other forms of media are released to the public free of charge for us all to enjoy. But unfortunately, we live in this fucking dimension, where companies will squeeze out every last penny they possibly can just to get you to play something that you already had before and ruin a perfectly good thing that they had going. Okay. Along with the free-to-play announcement, Blizzard also announced the introduction of Battle Passes to Overwatch 2. A paid level-up system where leveling up in the game also provided you with guaranteed cosmetics, skins, and new hero releases. Yes, new heroes in Overwatch 2 are temporarily locked behind a paywall, or until you grind for an excessively long time to unlock them on the free-to-play Battle Pass. There is a free progression system available too, but the rewards offered by this are laughably small. Gone are the days when everyone got the new releases for free at the same time. Those who are willing to pay $20 every couple of months when the new Battle Pass drops are able to get them for free. So good luck learning how to play or counter these new characters if you don't keep shelling out your fucking money. Gone are the predatory loot boxes and gambling mechanics, hooray! Now we have the cash store, just like I wanted, except all the skins cost fucking £10 or £20 a pop and there's no way to earn them in-game, meaning you're pretty much stuck with whatever cosmetics you brought over from Overwatch 1. You can get some common skins and sprays from the free-to-play Battle Pass, but you get maybe one of these every couple of levels instead of one loot box containing 4 items of any rarity each time you level up. Blizzard had a good, sustainable, and only slightly predatory monetization scheme for the initial Overwatch, and have instead now switched over to the Fortnite model. The Fortnite model works in Fortnite because you can spend your real money to make Goku do Gangnam Style, not to give some characters people don't really connect to anymore because they're intrinsically linked to an obscene amount of sexual harassment scandals some slightly different clothes. It wouldn't surprise me if this was the main reason Jeff Kaplan left Blizzard. The progression system in Overwatch 2 is completely different than in Overwatch 1, and it feels worse. Leveling up a Battle Pass only to have it reset every month and a half is unsatisfying, whereas watching your level go up in Overwatch 1 was, well, satisfying. Sure, it meant nothing, but it was just a small gesture showing your dedication to the game, and it definitely felt good to demolish someone with a much higher border than you despite them having many more hours invested into the game. Like my girlfriend says,
I want my level back.
I realise this is such an inconsequential aspect, but I'm someone who has a maxed RuneScape account and has played religiously for 17 years. Watching numbers go up is an integral part of my gameplay experience. In terms of gameplay, Overwatch 2 is fine. The gameplay and competitive meta has gone through many iterations throughout Overwatch's relatively short lifespan, but Blizzard took an interesting approach to shift up the meta this time around by changing the number of players per team down from 6 to 5. Removing one of the tank roles and adding more responsibility into just one tank. I have no strong feelings about this one way or another. I was personally indifferent to Blizzard introducing the forced 2-2-2 team compositions back in 2019. 90% of my time spent playing was with friends where we would figure out our team composition ahead of time anyway, so it made little to no impact on us. The new maps introduced this time around are also fine. They're just straight up additions to the initial game. And so are the 3 heroes released at Overwatch 2's launch. They're cool and all, I personally found Sojourn really fun to play, but they don't feel like something from a sequel. More like something from Overwatch Part 2, not Overwatch 2. I tried Overwatch 2 for a couple of weeks or so when it first dropped, but it wasn't the same. I played with the same friends, but the whole game just felt like a bit of a letdown. It was just Overwatch 1 with more heroes added and a now completely unnavigable menu system. This didn't feel like Overwatch 2. It felt like Overwatch 1. I didn't hate the game, but I just spent the whole time thinking, okay, is this it? But it wasn't it. The game launched in October 2022 with the PvE element, the aspect most players, myself included, were most excited for, completely absent. Blizzard claimed this was taking much longer to develop and as such had decided to release what they had so far, which honestly wasn't fucking much, for players to enjoy while the finishing touches were put to the long-awaited PvE campaign mode. And with that, I hung up my spurs once again, deciding to leave Overwatch 2 to sort out some of its teething problems and try it again with my friends once the PvE content launched. Except that never fucking happened, did it? Less than 7 months after Overwatch 2's launch, the long-awaited PvE hero mode was cancelled. Or at least, that's when they told us it was cancelled. It was probably scrapped way before that. Yep, that's it. Gone, done. The most anticipated feature of Overwatch 2 was no longer coming to the game. Blizzard, what the fuck had you been doing for the last 3 years? I know there was a pandemic and all, but Square Enix managed to get out whole expansion packs for Final Fantasy XIV in that time. The party line from Blizzard regarding this decision was that development on this game mode wasn't living up to expectations, and so the whole thing was getting scrapped. Not that they were going to spend a lot more time on it, it was just gone. This wasn't even particularly surprising when the news dropped. In the 6 months or so since I last picked up Overwatch, I'd lost any enthusiasm or belief that Blizzard were going to do right by this game. Instead, it was more of a, oh, that's a shame, response when I read the article. I don't know what lies ahead for Overwatch 2 right now, beyond more battle passes and a slow rollout of more paywalled content that is pretty much identical to Overwatch 1, only it now requires either a huge grind or constant cash investment to access. Actually, wait, no, while I was writing the script and editing the video, Blizzard fucked up again. So like, less than a month after scrapping this PvE game mode, you know, the entire premise of Overwatch 2, Blizzard announced a smaller, worse PvE game mode locked behind a $15 paywall. You good, Blizzard? Overwatch Invasion was announced in typical Overwatch 2 fashion, by showing a cool and flashy cinematic with hardly any actual gameplay footage, just the promise of story missions. Okay, is this the cancelled stuff? Have you resurrected and finished it all in the space of 4 weeks? Or is this just more archive event mission stuff, only this time you have to pay or wait months to access it? This is a genuine question, because I really can't tell if this is an alternative or just a small chunk of what was promised that Blizzard have released to appease fans after the backlash to the cancellation. I really, honestly, genuinely cannot tell. And to be honest, I don't care. Between writing this script and recording the video, the actual game mode has launched, and I still don't know what it is. Can someone just tell me? I just don't have it in me to research anymore. I just don't care. I'm not paying $15 to access archive missions when they used to do them for free all the time after my initial purchase of the game. And I'm not waiting months for the hype to die down and no one to be playing the game mode anymore when it inevitably becomes free to play. In reality, it was probably Blizzard's initial plan to release the PvE content this way anyway. Another battle pass and monetization scheme, behind which the promised content would be locked away until it's irrelevant. Then us poor plebs who can't afford the pass can play too. Please sponsor my videos, I need money. Only now we get all of that, but what is in reality most likely going to be a worse version of the scrapped content. I could be wrong on this front, but the fact that at the time of writing this script I'm still having a hard time figuring out what the Invasion game mode actually consists of is not a good look. This is probably for real the end of Overwatch for myself and many other players. Judging from the Steam reviews now that Overwatch 2 is available on there, public consensus is only growing more and more sour. The announcement, release and support process for Overwatch 2 have been laughable, and the game's only truly existed for about 7 months now. I can't even be bothered to update my client and take up another 30 gig of hard drive space to take screenshots and additional footage for this video. You're just gonna have to make do with trailers and existing footage that I've already got because I'm just done with this game. I've been put off Blizzard games ever since the initial Blitzchung and harassment scandals broke, and if you've been boycotting them since then more power to you. The discussion on the efficacy of boycotting mega properties like Overwatch is a discussion for another completely separate video, which I'm honestly never gonna make. Unless you subscribe and give me views, then I might. And to me, these issues serve as a gargantuan bale of hay which has broken this camel's back. I have a lot of good memories from Overwatch 1. Playing routinely every evening with my girlfriend when we lived long distance is a really special memory to me. And so is playing with her and my best friends over the COVID lockdowns when we had nothing better to do with our lives. But it's in the past now. That version of Overwatch is gone. There's something that looks, sounds, and acts similar in its space, but it feels like it's been deformed into something less enjoyable, less exciting and intriguing. It's not just that the novelty of the game has worn off on me. I've played RuneScape, League of Legends, Smash Bros. Melee, all for years now, and I'm still committed to them. Because even though there may have been updates I massively disagree with on these properties, it still feels like the core of the game is there, whereas with Overwatch, it's still there, it's just wrong. Blizzard took a gamble releasing Overwatch 2 in the state they did. A messy, unfinished game with no clear direction for the future. And unfortunately, it's a gamble which looks like it might pay off. At least in the short term. Initial reports of player count for Overwatch 2 have it stacked way higher than Overwatch 1, undoubtedly due to the free-to-play nature of the game, providing what is essentially an unlimited free trial to the core aspects of the game. And the new approach to monetization bringing in revenue for Overwatch 2, the likes of which haven't been seen in a good while. It's impossible to say if this is sustainable or not, and whether these figures will continue in this way now that there's no hero mode PvE coming, something which will potentially turn off a large number of players, but what do I know? I could be super reactionary and make this a super clickbait video with a title like, Overwatch is doomed, Blizzard did what? Gone sexual. But honestly, I don't care about this game anymore. I just don't. Maybe Blizzard didn't fumble the bag. Not the bag in terms of player count and initial earnings, which honestly are probably the only real metrics they care about, but they definitely fumbled the bag in terms of alienating a large portion of its dedicated player base. It's a shame, really. Overwatch was a franchise I could have seen myself getting into for a long time. And if the esports side of things had worked out better, I could also see myself staying invested for years after I stopped playing the game, just like with League. But that's not where we're at. In terms of keeping my interest, my time, and my income, Blizzard ended up losing. And it's all their fault. They should have learned how this game works. Thank you if you made it to the end. I really appreciate you sticking around to watch me rant about a game that I no longer care about. These videos take a really long time to research, write, and edit, and I know I'm not the best video editor, but I'd love to keep making more videos in this style about similar topics. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, then dropping a like, a comment, or subscribing to this YouTube channel really helps me out in terms of motivation, like massively. I'm also on Twitch and Twitter, where I'm at Theostophiles. I stream a couple times a week, and you're always welcome to come and hang out there too. I also have a Discord server for my stream and the YouTube channel. The link is down in the description there, and it would mean a lot if you came and hung out in there with us. Thank you so much again for coming by, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.